Want to welcome everyone to the variance analysis. On this one, we're going to do mixed variances. And what I have here is this is my standard mix, and this over here, right here is my standard. I have almonds, cashews, and raisins, and I use 70 pounds of almonds, 90 pounds of cashews, and 40 pounds of raisins. And over here is what I actually used. And what we're going to do is come up with some variances on how we do this. The mixed yield variance, the material mix variance, and the material price variance first. And then down here, we're going to do the labor yield variance, labor mix variance, and the labor rate variance. So to start with, what we have to do is find out what percentages are we using of each. So to do this, we take the 70 pounds and divide it by the 200 pounds. And that gives us 35%. Then we'll take 90 pounds divided by 200 and 40 pounds divided by 200. And there's our percentages that we use for that. The total cost I'm going to ahead and calculate out. I don't need to, but this is the price I have per batch, 297. So we take 70 times 425, 90 times 550, 40 times 625, and then we add all those up. So that gives us 1,040.50 per batch. We ran 45 batches on this. What I'm doing, I'm also going to get the total cost here. 3210 times the 420, and we'll copy those down and add those up, and that gives us a 47,733. That's my total cost. Okay, but right now I want to deal with these percentages here. So the percentages I want to bring down here are the same percentages we calculated up here. The 35, the 45, and the 20. Now, we did 45 batches, and you see each batch should have required 200 pounds, which if you multiply those out, gives you 9,000 pounds. Then what we'll do is we'll take the percentages times the 9,000 pounds to see how much we should have used at this level of production. Okay, so we should have used 3,150, 4,050, and 1,800. Okay, so again, you take the 35% times 9,000, 45% times 9,000, and 20% times 9,000. And then this is our standard price, which was right there, 425. And the next one was 550 and 620. So what we'll do is multiply them out. Now this is what we should have used. Okay. So just add them up. So that's what we should have used. Now we actually used 9,100 pounds. So we do the same percentages though. This is what the percentages we should have used: 35, 45, and 20. Now we do the same thing here, except we take the 35% times the actual pounds used, with 9,100. And that's what we should have used based on the actual pounds. 3,185, 4,095, and 1,820, because we take the 35 times 9,100, 45 times 9,100, and the 20% times 9,100. This is our standard price, so we use the standard price again of 425, of 550, and of 620. And then we multiply those out. So 3,185 times the 425, and then we add those down, multiply them across, then add them up, and that gives us 47,342.75. Okay. Now the difference is what we want to look at. In equal, I always use the absolute value because I don't want any pluses or minuses in here. But I take the first one minus the second one, and that gives us 520.25. We look at which one's larger. Since the one on the right's larger, that would have given us a negative number, and if it's a negative number, it's unfavorable. Okay. Now, this was using and that's our material yield variance. On the other one, material mix variance, we want to look at the actual pounds used, 3210, 4080, and 1810. That's the actual pounds used. Take it times our standard price again, 425, 550, and 620. Multiply those out. So we have 3210 times the 425, and then we have 4080 times the 1050, and the 1810 times the, there we go, 620. Add those up, and again we want to take the difference, ABS, always take left minus right, because we don't want pluses or minuses. And we look at this one and we see this one is favorable because this would have been a positive number by 3825. That's our material mix variance. Then what we look at, again, we take our actual, this is what we're doing basically here, we're just going to copy this one down. This is our actual cost that we have. So actual pounds. This is the actual price that we paid. So we copy that one down. And we already have this one calculated out. So then we just copy this down also, because we already have it, this one done from up above. And get my machine working. Okay. And the difference is equal ABS, the 47,304 minus 47,733 is 428. And again, it would be a negative number if you did it, so it would be unfavorable. Now we don't have negative, if it's negative, it's unfavorable. So that's the material price variance. Okay. Then our labor, okay, that's the material variances that we have. Now we go to labor variances. The same standards, except the same thing happens, except this time we use 3 pounds for the mixing, 3 hours for the mixing, 2 hours for the packaging, 13 and 16 are costs, so we use 5 hours. So again, we find our percentages. So we equal 3 divided by 5 and 2 divided by 5. Okay, and our total here is with these two models, 3 times the 13 and 2 times the 16 for a total of, mouse not working, $65. Let's try that again. 2 times the 16, there's $71. I don't know why that did. Okay. Then over here is what we actually used in hours, or total hours. We actually used 155 times 1320 and 85 times 1640 for a total of 3440. Okay, that's what we actually did use. So let's come down here for our standard. Number of batches, again it's 45. Each batch requires 5 hours. So we multiply them out. So for the 45 batches, we should have used a total of 225 hours. The percentages that we have is 60 and 40. So again, we use the same thing like we did before, 225 times 60% is 135 and 90. That's what we should have used. Our standard rate was 13 and 16 for the packaging. So now we multiply those out. 135 times the 13 and 90 times the 16 gives us 1440 for a total of 3195. Okay. We actually use 240 hours. Again, we use the same percentages, 60 and 40. And we do the same thing. We take the 60% times the 240 hours. And then we take the, I'll do it that way, 40% times the 240 hours. That's how many hours we should have used. Our standard rates is 13 and 16. Find out what our total is. So we have 144 times the 13 and equal 96 times the 16 for a total of 3408. And for the yield variance again, we take equal to ABS, 3195 minus the 3408. And that's a labor yield variance, and that will be unfavorable. Okay. Actual hours used is 240. Oh no, that's 240, but this is the actual breakdown, sorry, equal the 155 and 85. Standard rates was 13 and 16. Got to click on it. Okay. Multiply them out, equal 155 times 13 equal 85 times 16 for a total of 3775. For labor mix, we do the equal absolute value again. This time it's 3408 minus 3375. And we tell this one's going to be favorable because it's a positive number if you subtract them. So that one's favorable by $33. And then here, we do the same thing before. Wrong one. Equal the actual hours. And this time we use the actual rate of 1640. Multiply them out just like we did before. Looks like we have up above, so that's kind of a check if you want to do it that way. And not if you do it that way though. There we go. Add them up. Oh. Okay. There we go. Add them up. It's 3440. Okay. Equal ABS 3375 minus 3440. And again, this one will be unfavorable. And that's the labor rate variance. So that's your mixed variances for the material and for the labor. And hopefully that helps.